Please welcome to the stage author, global educator, and founder of the Tel Aviv Institute, Hen Mazzig, and singer, actress, and social media activist, Montana Tucker.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. All right, guys, I have to do it. We could be louder. Welcome back. How are we doing? Woo! Let's get the energy going. Thanks to ADL for hosting this amazing event and for the incredible work that you do to end bigotry and protect the Jewish community worldwide. This has been such an incredible experience so far. We've heard from people who are taking on anti-Semitism and standing up for Jewish communities in the United States and around the world. We had university leaders talk about combating hate on campus. We had the incredible Daniel Lubetsky receiving the Courage Against Hate Award. And Ambassador Yusuf Al-Otaiba was honored for his work on the Abraham Accords. Amazing. There have been networking events and receptions, panels, and workshops on everything from tackling media bias to fighting hate online to building community amid anti-Semitism. For those of you who joined us yesterday, thank you for coming back. And for those of you showing up for the first time, including hundreds of students who are joining us today. If you're a student, can you please stand? Where are our students? Yes! Woo! Woo! This is amazing. I got to meet some of you earlier, and I'm so thankful that you're here and so proud of you. So, Hen, where do we go from here?
I'll tell you. Today, in this final session, we're talking about the future of hope. Hope is not just a feeling, it's a choice to believe in a better world, to work towards it, to never give in to despair. And if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that Jewish people are not defined by their suffering, but by their resilience. And I have to say, my grandparents coming from Iraq and Tunisia as Jewish refugees to Israel and embodying this resilience is what keeps me going. I do everything I do for them and for my children one day that will have this resilience with them. And that resilience is why I'm hopeful. And it's why we must celebrate those who embody that fight, those who take action, who inspire, who lead by example, all of you.
And we have seen that power at Never Is Now, from people who are taking on hard fights and making a difference. I've seen it myself from people across the country and around the world, Jews and non-Jews, who are standing up and speaking out and taking part in a movement for change. And let me tell you, here today in this room with all of you, I truly feel more hopeful than ever. So thank you. All right, Hen, are we ready to kick things off?
I'm ready.
I mean, how about all of you guys? Are you ready? We have an incredible lineup ahead from a sports icon, who I just saw backstage and I'm like fangirling, to a tech leader, from an amazing performer, to a group of influencers fighting hate, woo! And of course, international superstar, Gal Gadot, woo! I am so excited for what's in store today.
Me too. Oh my God, Gal Gadot. I'm fangirling so.
Right?
I don't react this way about anyone, but Gal Gadot, are you serious? Entire childhood, never mind. So let's get this session started with an award honoring a trailblazing individual who has transformed the fight for equality and justice. Here to introduce the winner of ADL's Changemaker Award, please welcome ADL board member, former commissioner of the Pac-12 Conference, and former chairman and CEO of the WTA Tour, Larry Scott.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a privilege to introduce this year's recipient of the Changemaker Award. I've spent my life and career in sports. I've been a student athlete, a professional tennis player, a sports executive, including CEO of the Women's Tennis Association. And I've seen the power of sports to challenge assumptions, to change minds, and connect communities. And I've seen how athletes who inspire us can use their platforms to help build a more just and equitable world. Now, nobody exemplifies that idea more clearly, more powerfully, or with more grace and determination than our next honoree, Billie Jean King. More than half a century ago, in 1973, Billie took on Bobby Riggs in a tennis match dubbed the Battle of the Sexes. Despite being the #1 ranked women's tennis player in the world, she had been taunted by male players and commentators like Riggs, who belittled women's sports and disparaged female athletes. And in a high-drama match with an estimated 90 million people watching, she won in straight sets. It was an earthquake, not only for tennis or athletics, but for American culture. At a time when a woman couldn't even get a credit card in her own name without a man's consent, Billie's victory was a symbol that could not be ignored. But Billie Jean King proved to be much more than a symbol. She's a courageous leader. She has used her platform to break down barriers, expand opportunities, and build the kind of infrastructure and community that has allowed others to thrive. From her founding of the Women's Tennis Association in 1973 to the creation of the Women's Sports Foundation in 1974 to her current involvement with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Los Angeles Sparks, Angel City FC, and the recently launched Professional Women's Hockey League, to her work in the Campaign for Equal Pay and Equal Prize Money, to her ongoing efforts as a founding member of ADL's own Sports Leadership Council, she has advanced equality across the board and driven social change. You can see the results all around you. The explosion in the popularity of women's sports may feel sudden, but this overnight sensation has been 50 years in the making. And Billie Jean King has been at the center of it all. With the support of her wife and partner of more than 40 years, Ilana Kloss, she has helped to launch, build, and expand women's sports, creating opportunities for so many incredible athletes and inspiring millions of fans around the world, not just to live their lives, but to pursue their passions. For the Jewish community, she's been a proud ally and a fierce advocate. In 2009, Israeli tennis player Shahar Peer was denied a visa by the UAE to play in the Dubai Tennis Championships. I was CEO of the Women's Tennis Association at the time, and I relied on and worked closely with Billie on our response to find the tournament, speak strongly in support of Shahar, and make clear that discrimination against Jews and Israelis was unacceptable then, now, and forever. She and her wife Ilana, who's a proud Jewish woman, often talk to me about ADL's work because they're deeply invested in what we do. Like so many of us, Billie knows what it means to be the target of bigotry and bias. She recognizes how ignorance can perpetuate inequity, and she understands the vital importance of serving as a force for change. And that's why her work has always transcended sports. It's why she's been recognized, not just for her athletic accomplishments, but for her impact as Time Magazine's Woman of the Year, as one of Life Magazine's 100 Most Important Americans of the 20th century, as the first woman to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. From gender equity to LGBTQ equality to the fight against anti-Semitism, she's always put herself at the center of causes that recognize our common humanity. And she has led with her conscience, demanding nothing more and nothing less than justice. At ADL, our mission goes beyond anti-Semitism and includes the missive that we must secure justice and fair treatment for all. I can think of no one more committed to this goal than the recipient of this year's Changemaker Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating and welcoming Billie Jean King.
I'll walk this off. Show it off, it's beautiful.
Where's Juju?
She's coming. So, folks, for the
I want her
conversation,
to have a photo with us.
for the conversation this afternoon, please join me in welcoming ABC News Nightline anchor and famed journalist Juju Chang.
I will.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you guys hear? Is my mic on yet?
Now it is.
I don't think so.
I think it
Is
is.
my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it is
Yes.
now.
So I just want you to know
gonna
this
put that
picture
right there.
was possible because Billie Jean said, "I want Juju in this picture." And I said, "Billie, you're always
Thank you.
fighting for women to
No,
be included."
I don't fight just for women. I fight for everyone.
Yes,
Here we
true.
go.
Yes. Are you on this side? Yes. You're on that side.
I'm on this side because of my mic.
First of all, I wanted to fact check the internet when it said you were 81 years old because, come on.
I am. I feel
love it.
great.
And after a 20-year hiatus because of your knees, you started playing tennis again?
Yes, I have. I
During
hit
COVID?
tennis balls with Ilana, who Larry alluded to. Ilana, I love to brag about her, and she's not here today. She's really upset. She's out west working. And Ilana is from South Africa, left-handed, just like Jonathan's Greenblatt's father, Jerry, who plays. Or just stop. Anyway, she won the Maccabi or the Maccabi, what
Maccabi
country you're
Games,
from.
yes.
She won the Triple Crown, and she's from South Africa, and the athletes chose her to carry the flag, which I think is so great. So she's, we're in it. So
And I know you wanted to
ADL is
acknowledge,
important to us.
Yeah, I know you wanted to acknowledge Larry Scott's work.
Larry, I've got him. What do you want to know? No, I'm kidding. Larry Scott was the executive director of the Women's Tennis Association. And I think he is the one person most responsible, particularly behind the scenes, as our executive director, to get equal prize money in all the major tournaments. It took from 1973 to 2007, but Larry is the one that got it over the top. So he doesn't talk about it, but I'm going to talk about him. And so that was really great. And he also went to Harvard, was the captain of the tennis team. He's a winner.
He's
winner,
a pretty
winner.
cool dude. He's a
Yeah.
baller like you.
Yeah.
But the idea of longevity, the fact that you picked up a tennis racket again during COVID, I think the real key to longevity is living a life of purpose, which you've done. And you continue to fight every day on behalf of women and behalf of all people, as you say. But let's start with the epiphany. Where did it start as a 12-year-old Billie Jean had a racket in her hand?
Well, first, tennis was my last sport. I played all team sports before that. And you should know that my younger brother, Randy Moffat's our birth name, played 12 years of professional baseball. Most of them with the San Francisco Giants as a relief pitcher. But basketball was our first sport, and I played all team sports. And then Susan Williams said, "Do you want to play tennis?" She was, this is 5th grade. And I went, "What's tennis?" I had no idea. So the first time I went to to the Houghton Park where we had free access, which is major. At the end of that session with Clyde Walker, who I ended up adoring, I knew what I wanted to do with my life, and that's be the #1 tennis player. But fast forward to 12 years old, now I played a whole year, and I'm trying to get a ranking and all that at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. And I started to daydream a little, and I realized everybody wore white, everybody played with white balls, and everybody who played was white. And I went, where's everybody else? And I realized, because I love history, I'm a geek about it, that tennis was global. And I thought, you know, if I could become #1, I know I'm a second-class citizen, but I know that my sisters of color and people with disabilities were worse off. But I knew that maybe, just maybe, I could make this world a better place if I could become #1. And so I have never lost sight of that day in those moments of thinking. And that's what I'm fighting for, is equality. And what ADL does, if you think about it, is having everyone matter. Because every single person matters.
That's true. That's absolutely part of the mission. And it's what you do to this day. I mean, you know, fast forward, I'm going to gloss right over 39 Grand Slams and, 20 Wimbledon titles to start. But you helped launch the Women's Professional Tour. And you did that for tennis, but you've been doing it for other sports through the foundation. And you did it just for hockey, women's hockey, 2 years ago. I mean, you are as relevant now as you were in 1973 when it was all starting. But give us a sense of how you did it back then, the original 9.
The original 9,
and because you're using that formula even to this day.
Well, when I got into tennis, I was really upset because it was only amateur. And amateur to me means it's a hobby. And we were the best players in the world, the women were. And I said we should be pros. I knew I wanted to change the game. And so 9 of us, I'll fast forward to 1970, but in the 60s, I was trying to get the men and women together to have one association. Because I said we would be so much more powerful, not just on the court, but off the court, what we could do for the world, like making it a better world. And they just could not see it. They told me to get lost. Okay, so I thought, okay, so there was 9 of us with Gladys Hellman. She's another Jewish, really wonderful person who was the publisher of World Tennis Magazine. Got us a sponsor, Philip Morris, led by Joseph Coleman, who's also, I think, pretty active in ADL. And we had a tournament in Houston, Texas, $1, we got $1 bill. There's an iconic photo with 9 of us holding this $1 bill. That is the birth of women's professional tennis the way you know it today. When you see a player get a check, it all started that day, September 23rd, 1970. And the 3 things that we really did this for is that any girl born in this world, if she were good enough, would have a place to play. Number 2, that we'd be appreciated for our accomplishments, not only our looks, which is still a challenge. And number 3, to be able to make a living playing the sport we love, tennis. So those are the 3 things, and they really ring true today.
And you use that template even for hockey. You get the best players. How do you do it?
The main thing is you've got to get the top players together, and you have to have the top 2 generations. You can't just have the top generation. Like we helped Julie Foudy back in 1999 with the 99ers. I don't know if you remember that. Some of you old enough will. When they played the Rose Bowl, had over 90,000 people, and everybody said nobody would show up for them. And she calls me, Kinger, help me. What should we do? And I said, well, what can you leverage? You have to figure what you leverage. The Olympics, the World Championships are usually the only 2 they have. And I said, are you willing? Sometimes you have to give up something to get something. And she's, okay. So they went and started to fight for equal money with the USA Soccer. And you probably know about Rapinoe and Lloyd and those players. And you thought it all started back in the late 90s. It's the reason they finally got to equal prize money. So it's a long haul and a lot of work behind the scenes from people you'll never heard of. But the top players have to stick together, because when USA Soccer went to Julie, they said, well, we don't care about you. You're old. We'll go to the next generation. She says, no, you won't. We have them. Then they said, okay, we're going to go to the 3rd generation. We have them too. They got white. And that's when things changed.
Absolutely. And it's not just USA Soccer, the WNBA. You and I talked about
The players
Clara
have
Wu
to stick
Tsai
together.
and the Liberty and how wildly popular women's sports is becoming.
Oh, it is. It's on its way because people with money, but very wealthy people are now investing in us and not looking at it as a charity. We're actually business, which is, I love business, owned tournaments since 1968. My former husband and I owned them. And so I understood the business side. And that's what I tell every athlete. They go, what should I do? I said, understand the business. Because they don't. They just want more.
And you also talked about, from a woman's perspective, that you have to ask for what you want and need.
Oh.
And so you and I bonded with the Dodgers. Because guess who's part of the ownership group of the LA Dodgers?
So,
please tell. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Southern California. Sorry, Yankees, Mets, sorry. Because I used to have all the Yankee trading cards back as a kid in the 50s. California didn't have a pro team until the late 50s, early 60s. I was doing a fundraiser.
It's because they stole the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's what happened.
I love Jackie Robinson. That's a whole other discussion. And Rachel. So anyway,
you had to ask to be part of the Dodgers.
After a fundraiser, you know, Mark Walter came up to Ilana and me and said, well, maybe you should be with the Sparks, which I love basketball. And I said, and I thought to myself, why don't I just, for the first time in my life, really ask what I want and need, not what we want and need. So I go, well, what about the Dodgers? Because I grew up with them, and I'm from Long Beach, California. And he goes, why not? That's how that happened. That's how scary is we as women do not ask for what we want and need. And I think 20% of you are young people here today. Make sure that you define yourself. Don't let anybody else define you. You define yourself. And hang on.
You know, I don't know if you know this, but there's a major documentary coming out next year on Billie Jean King. There's a Broadway show in the works about Billie Jean King. She's not embarrassed about it at all.
Yeah, I am.
And, you know, I was reading back in your bio, and I didn't realize that Elton John wrote the song about you.
Philadelphia Freedom?
Philadelphia Freedom
Yeah,
is
that's
about
my
Billie
song.
Jean King.
Yeah, we're going to a concert. We were going to a concert together, and we're sitting in the back of this car, and he goes, I want to write a song for you. And of course, I'm thinking, I didn't hear this right? There's no way. And I said, what? He goes, what are we going to call it? He thinks really fast. You got to go fast. And I go, did I hear you right? He says, yes. So what are we going to call it? He goes, how about the Philadelphia Freedom? Because I was playing team tennis for them. And he loved to come out and cheer for us. I said, that would be a great gift to the people of Philadelphia if you did that. They still, I mean, it's like their anthem. And it became #1, crossed over into R&B, and became #1. And he loves R&B. And so it was the first time he had a song that crossed over into R&B, because he knew I liked that sound of Philadelphia. It's a great sound. And anyway, that's that. And then there's... Yeah.
I was bringing this all up because of the documentary and because of the Broadway show, because so many people focus on the Bobby Riggs Battle of the Sexes.
It's because there's a guy involved. Yeah.
There was a guy involved.
I'm not kidding. I can go through my whole life and can explain how.
But I also think that moment in history, Title IX had just been passed, and you were telling me the backstory on Title IX. There was a lot of change, as Bob Dylan would say.
Right.
Things they are changing.
They were. Oh, that's, you know, we could play 3 chords on it.
Exactly right.
Where have all the flowers gone? I mean, everybody was
so
playing.
When you look back in the rearview mirror at the Bobby Riggs match and 1973 and all that happened then, what comes to mind for you?
I knew before the match that it was about social change. I knew that we'd have a lot of people watching. Title IX had just been passed the year before, even though I didn't talk about it that much. I was thinking hard. In Title IX, everyone thinks it pertains to sports. But before 1972, the classroom quotas are really small. For instance, if you wanted to go to Harvard and become a doctor as a woman, they only allowed 5% of the class to be women. And that's why there were no women doctors and lawyers and all that. So that changed that. But now we have too many women. We have 57% women go to college, and that we need 50-50. We need more guys to come get back in there, because it should be equal. And in Title IX, there was the word activity. It's only 37 words if you read it. But Senator Birchby became a great hero friend of mine, and he was one of the co-authors. In fact, he actually wrote it out. And they couldn't decide whether to leave activity in or take it out. But because they decided to leave it in is the reason we have scholarships for women to college in athletics and sports. Otherwise, we still wouldn't be getting scholarships. Like, I'm pre-Title IX. I worked 2 jobs, went to school. And the reason we have women's professional sports is because of Title IX. We have a talent pool of women now, just like the men have always had. It's always been basically a farm system for pro men's sports to do their draft, and it's because they always had sports in college. Well, now the women have it as well. And in '96 Olympics is where women shined for the first time in Atlanta.
I also know that you've been a tireless advocate for the LGBTQ community, and that you were threatened. That's worthy of applause, absolutely. But it was during your fight to start a professional league for women that you were threatened with being outed. And that this was a very ugly chapter.
Well, during the tour, I was told if I say anything, we won't have a tour. So that kept it really easy. I'm not going to say anything. I was going through such tumult, trying to figure out who I am. You know, I was married to Larry. I'd asked for a divorce. He wouldn't give it to me. It was horrible. And eventually, I was outed. I had an affair with Marilyn Barnett, and I was outed in '81, and I lost everything overnight.
The endorsements,
everything. And I finally was going to make some money, because my generation, we didn't make the big bucks. I don't think if you look up, you'll see how
And yet you were the first woman to earn $100,000, and you were...
I told Larry I want to make over 100 next year on the first year of the tour, because that way people will follow the tour, and then we'll get people to watch the tour. And because when you get on television, you talk about the other players, you talk about the dream, and you talk about the dream for the future generations, because that's really, the first generation's really doing it for the future generations. But I want every child to have the dream, whatever that is for you, whatever that is for any child. I don't care what gender, I don't care. I want everyone to have their dream. And girls didn't have it, and now we do, as far as sports. But as far as LGBTQ plus community, it was horrible in '81. I mean, it was horrible. It is so much better today than it's ever been, but it still has a long way to go. In trans, I've known trans people since the '70s. People just think it's easy on it. It is such a hard road for trans. It's just, and everyone has a tough time. All of you have had a tough journey, I'm sure, in some way.
And we were talking about knowing, why it's important for you always to stand up to any kind of hate.
Hate, and of course how can you not love the ADL for that? I mean, come on. That's what you stand for. Anti-hate.
Anti-hate, because when it comes to the trans community or any minority community, it's a matter of numbers. You were saying it's easy to target.
When you're a small number, how many Jews do we have in the world?
15
Thank you, 15 million in the whole world. That's a small number, and I still think that has some, not everything, but something to do with why people, it's easier. It's like being a bully on the playground. You have a guy who's 6 feet, and you got this little guy, and the big guy just is going to beat the little guy, and what are you supposed to do? I mean, the difference is huge. My brother, oh my God, I love my brother. He and I were the anti-bully in the neighborhood, and then at school, because my brother's 6'3", and he's strong, and he used to go and really protect the kids that were smaller and that were always picked on. And it's just, it does happen. You see it in size, you see it in the numbers, and that's why, as human beings, I always look at each person as a human being first. I don't care of course I know what color you are or whatever. Forget that, though. It's like start from scratch with every person and just be kind and good. This is not rocket science. And to listen.
Yeah. And I will say, it's kind of a cliche to say you are a student of history, but you're literally studying
I went back to college, you guys.
She went back to college.
I want to finish. I was 3 years in, and I wanted to be #1 in the world, and I knew I couldn't be #1 in the world if I kept going to college. So I left, and Larry said to me at the time, because we were married at the time, he goes, "You have to leave." He says, you're meant to play. You're meant to do all these things. And so I went to Australia, and after that, the Australians were great to me. They're the reason I think I became #1. They helped me a lot. And then the next year I was #1, but I couldn't have done it if I stayed in school. So now I'm going back to school. I've got 1 year, I gotta finish. I hate, you gotta finish, right?
I mean, you are an example of be the change you want to see. You've lived a life of purpose, a life of meaning. And as a student of history, where do you see the future heading in terms of questions around equality and fairness and anti-hate? And we have like a minute 30 left. I can't believe it.
I have no idea. Do you guys? I have no idea of answers. I am so bamboozled right now, thinking, I mean, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, I don't care. I just don't understand why we can't be good to each other. I just don't understand it. And power in numbers, and also very, very wealthy people have a lot of power. But because of that, more responsibility, I think. I'm not so sure that's the way a lot of them think about it. But I think the more you have, the more responsibility we have as people. I know I was talking to Jonathan Greenblatt backstage, your prez. I think he's been president 10 years. And I think he's done a great job. And I like the fact that we have our leadership council, and then you have the entertainment council, and all of us have a platform, and it's our job to speak up and keep fighting for kindness and no hate, get rid of hate. We cannot be against, it cannot be, it drives me crazy. I don't know what to, I don't have any answers, to be honest. I don't know, do any of you have any answers right now? I am so perplexed, my brain's frying with what we need to do or what should we do. But all I know is ADL is needed more than ever right now. That I am clear on. It's no brainer.
Well, I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you on behalf of the audience, because I know each and every one of us has been inspired by you in the many myriad ways that you've been a change maker and an embodiment of this award. Thank you so much, Billie Jean.
Thank you. It means so much to me. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Bless you.
I think we can walk out that way.
This way? Yeah. I want my award.
Please welcome to the stage CEO and National Director of ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt.
Talk about awesome. It's not often that you find yourself in the presence of a living legend. So thank you, Billie Jean. Thank you, Juju. Thank you, Larry, for really just inspiring conversation. At a Calabasas City Council meeting a few years ago, the members got a call. The meeting was being Zoomed, and it came in overhead. And what they heard was as follows. Hi, I'm John Greenblatt, and I'm CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, and I support the Goyim Defense League. Here's the scary thing. It sounded just like me. It was my voice. But actually it wasn't. The recording was generated using artificial intelligence, or AI, by an anti-Semitic white supremacist group that provocatively mocks ADL. Many of those ugly, hateful flyers that you see scattered on front lawns around the country are done by the Goyim Defense League. Now, this meeting took place back in 2023, and the technology has only gotten better, exponentially better. One of the individuals on our stage today has boldly stated that the singularity, the moment when humans and machines will merge, and technological change will be so rapid that it permanently alters human life as we know it. He has argued that that moment is closer to realization than at any point in the history of humanity. Suffice to say, we are at the dawn of a new epoch. And yet, as we enter this new era, that recording serves as a reminder that technologies such as AI can be weaponized by bad actors. At the same time, AI also can usher in promises almost unimaginable improvements in human life. We already use it at ADL to detect and track anti-Semitism. We use it at ADL to monitor and disrupt extremists. And we use it at ADL to provide resources to counter bigotry and all forms of hate. I can tell you firsthand that its potential almost seems infinite. How many of you in the audience have used ChatGPT in the last, say, week? Raise your hands. If we were to do this meeting next year and I asked the same question, I would guess that all of your hands would go up. It is weaving its way into our lives in a manner that is almost hard to conceive. It is indeed complex, but we are joined today by two brilliant individuals who will simplify our understanding of the technology and its implications because they've been working with it for decades. One of them, who you'll hear from today, is among the most visionary thinkers and consequential innovators of our time. And the second is among the leading executives in corporate America using technology to fight hate. I'm proud to introduce Ray Kurzweil and Yasmin Green. A bit of background before we start the discussion. Ray is a computer scientist, inventor, entrepreneur, best-selling author, and one of the most pioneering individuals of our age. Ray has been among the leading developers in artificial intelligence for more than 6 decades, longer than any other living person. His many inventions include the first print-to-speech reading machine for the blind, and the first music synthesizer capable of recreating the grand piano and other instruments. Among Ray's numerous other business achievements and technical accolades, and there are too many to go through today, he can also claim a Grammy Award. Not too shabby for a kid from Queens. Yasmin Green is the CEO of Jigsaw, a business unit within Alphabet, the company formerly known as Google, that addresses threats to open societies. Her team researches and develops innovative tools and technical solutions to address violent extremism, repressive censorship, hate and harassment, and harmful misinformation. You could kind of say that Jigsaw is a bit like the 00 section of MI6 in the James Bond movies. And I guess that means Yasmin is Q. But she's really a sought-after speaker who has graced the stage at TED, Aspen Ideas, South by Southwest, and many other global forums. And I have the pleasure of working with her regularly because she's a member of the ADL Board of Directors. Please welcome to the stage at the 2025 Never Is Now Conference, Ray Kurzweil and Yasmin Green.
It's incredible to be here and to sit alongside you, Ray. So as Jonathan mentioned, in my work at Jigsaw, I get to work with AI and I get to work with AI luminaries. But Ray Kurzweil is in a league completely of his own. Jonathan talked about his many inventions. The through line to a lot of the ones that he talked about is that Ray's technologies have all, they've had a fundamental recreation of aspects of our mind in software that have enabled things like speech recognition and text recognition and music synthesis. And one of the first books that my husband and I read together, which he just mentioned to you, was How to Create a Mind, which is an absolutely incredible look at how AI and the algorithms underneath it mimic the way that our minds work. And it starts to hint at the incredible potential of AI to do amazing things for us. So Ray, before we, the incredible track record that you have for 35 years of making accurate predictions about AI is probably where we're going to spend our time today, really looking into the future. But I wondered if we could start maybe by you telling us a little bit about how you became an inventor.
Well, my story starts in 1868. I'm not quite that old, almost. But my mother started one of the first schools in Europe that provided higher education for girls. If you were a girl in Europe in the mid-19th century, if you got to go to school at all, it went through most 9th grade. This actually went from kindergarten to 14th grade. And her daughter, which was my grandmother, became an exemplar of her attitude. She was one of the first women to get a PhD in chemistry. She took over the school in 1900. They ran the school for 70 years to 1938, and they realized they needed to leave Europe. So my grandfather and grandmother and their 2 daughters, which include my mother, we could spend the rest of the time how they got out and away from Hitler's army. My grandfather felt the only way he would be safe is if he put an ocean between him and Hitler. So she wrote a book about this, which was published in Austria. And when I was 6, she showed me the typewriter mechanical typewriter that she had wrote it on. And that was a revelation. That brought me to inventing. I mean, here was a machine that you could put a blank piece of paper in, and it would turn into something that looked like it came from a book. I'd never seen anything like that. And I was used to actually taking apart mechanical objects and seeing how they worked and how they could be extended, or at least imagining how they could be extended. And I studied the typewriter, and she actually let me have it for a few weeks. I actually wrote a 22-page book about a boy who went around the world on the back of a geese and discovered the world.
So you wrote that as a child?
At 6 or 7, yeah. And so I went through the neighborhood and I gathered lots of mechanical objects from broken bicycles, broken radios, and I had this huge amount of mechanical and somewhat electronic objects. And I imagined if I could just put them together, I could create anything. And I actually had the idea that we could live forever, go to other planets and so on. I didn't know how to do that, but I remember showing it to some older girls, I think they were 10, and they said, "You have quite an imagination." So that's how I got into inventing.
You're like, I'm onto something. I think a lot of children probably think about living forever or visiting other planets, but then don't make it their life's work to get us closer to those things. So maybe in the spirit of getting more futuristic, maybe we can fast forward to 1999.
Right.
Why was that a significant year?
Well, I came out with a book and I predicted that we would reach AGI, artificial intelligence that matched humans in every capacity by 2029, in 30 years. So Stanford was alarmed by this, and they organized a conference to examine my prediction.
Say the prediction again very slowly for us. So you use the term AGI.
I mean, I was involved with AI right now it's for 63 years. I actually created the first program that could write music. Took it on a show called I've Got a Secret. And when the computer was trying to figure it out, its lights were dim and it looked like it was thinking. So I was very interested in AI, and I met Marvin Minsky at MIT, who was then 29. He became my mentor for 50 years. But anyway, I made this prediction in 1999.
And say it again slowly for us what the prediction was.
That AI would reach the capacity that it could do everything that any human could do very quickly.
Okay. And that's a definition of AGI, artificial general
Well, that's my
intelligence.
definition, which is actually harsher than other predictions.
All right, so you make this in 1999. Stanford gathers hundreds of experts to explore this prediction.
That's right.
And what was the expert consensus?
They agreed with me that it would happen,
Okay.
but not within 30 years, within 100 years.
All right.
And nobody actually agreed with me that it would happen within 30 years, because they're thinking linearly and not thinking exponentially.
And
So
so 30 years from 1999 would be
2029.
so we're
4 years away.
4 years.
Yeah.
How confident are you feeling in your prediction now?
It's actually one of the more conservative predictions, because people are saying it's going to happen this year, next year, 2027. 2029 is actually outside by a conservative margin.
But yeah, making a 30-year prediction is hard. Can you tell us some things that you predicted in 1999 for 2009?
Well, in the Singularities Near, which came out in 2005, actually, Age of Spiritual Machines came out in 99. I made 147 predictions about 2009. In 1999, people were not reading books. They were reading them on a hard copy. I predicted that we'd actually have an advent of electronic books that could be read to you or that you could read.
Right.
That was actually unknown in 1999. So this is one of the 147 predictions.
And so, and you scored yourself for these 147 predictions 10 years out from 1999. What percentage
Within
accuracy were you?
being accurate within 1 year was about 86%.
All right. You actually have some method that you're going to share with us for how you make these predictions.
Yeah, if we could actually bring up that graph.
It involves looking at a chart. We have one slide and one chart, but to you, this was the underpinning to it all.
I mean, I've been tracking the speed of computation. Do we have that?
No, not yet. We're hoping for a price computation chart of computing
Anyway,
to appear.
it took, for 85 years, I took the most capable computer of that year, and it's on an exponential graph.
There we go.
Okay, there it is.
Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And this is an exponential curve, so a straight line means exponential growth. And it's pretty much a straight line. So it goes from 1939, which was the first operating computer, generated 0.000007 calculations per second per constant dollar. At the upper right hand, and that was actually shown to Hitler, and Hitler felt there was no need for computation in warfare, which was one of the mistakes he made, aside from other horrible things. But presently we do 500 billion calculations per second per constant dollar. So this is an 85 quadrillion-fold increase in the power of hardware. And part of the application of AI is the fact that we use very fast computers that can consider all of the permutations of a problem. The actual speed of computers is the hardware which you're looking at, multiplied by the software. And the software also has made tremendous amounts of progress. So the overall speed of computation has probably been something like 1 million quadrillion-fold increase in the last 85 years. And it continues. And I looked at this chart in 1999, so take out the last 20 points, and felt it would continue, which it has, and felt we would get to AGI by 2029. So.
Okay, so now with the knowledge of this graph, I'm curious to do actually a show of hands here. Raise your hand if you think in 4 years' time we will have AI that can do the best, can perform at least as well as any human at any task. That's amazing. Okay, I'd say it's about 40%, and we should do that poll again next year when you come back and we hold you accountable for your predictions.
Yeah, but most computer experts now agree with that.
Yeah, well,
and it's already
4 years
quite
out
impressive.
instead of 30 years out.
I mean, one person spent 4 days comparing 2 books, and then she decided to have one of the leading large language models do it. Took 40 seconds. She felt it did a better job.
Yeah.
So we see comparisons already that are quite startling.
For many, and this is not the sentiment I get from you, but for many, there's concern about breakthroughs in AI and the implications for humanity. Why do you think people are fearful, and why should they not be?
Well, I sometimes think if we were to approach a mouse, say 1 million years ago, and say, we're going to give you intelligence and you're going to be as intelligent as we would describe a human, which didn't exist yet.
We would say this if we would say this to a mouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the mouse would say, well, gee, I don't know. We'd create atomic energy that might be quite fearful. We'd have deep fakes that'd be very hard to deal with. And they really wouldn't be sure if they wanted to take that step. But I think most people are glad that we have the intelligence we have and are not.
You think we fear intelligence? There's an element of that?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to make us more intelligent. That's where I differ from other AI scientists. I mean, people say, okay, we're intelligent and AI is represented here, kind of not the same thing, because it's really not part of us. I mean, how many people here have their phone on them? It's probably 99%. That wasn't true 10, 15 years ago. But this already makes us smarter, but we have to go through it. It's actually going to be part of ourselves. We're going to merge with this intelligence. The whole idea of the singularities, we're going to be 1 million times more powerful in 20 years. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference between natural and artificial intelligence. That's a difference. Everybody thinks AI is something else,
Yeah.
like it's an alien invasion from Mars of intelligent machines, but we actually created it.
So you don't think we're competing with it in some kind of existential arms race?
Well, it can be used by actually bad people. I mean, part of the problem that ADL faces is hate coming from people who are not enhanced. So we're afraid of intelligence if it's in the wrong hands.
The term singularity is one that you've coined, and actually is another prediction that you've made about what's to come farther out than 4 years. So can you tell us again when we can expect singularity and define for us what it is?
Well, 2029, AI will be as powerful as people. It's already getting there, but in the 2030s, we'll actually merge with it. We can actually go inside our brains today, but it's only feasible for people who can't communicate. In the 2030s, we'll be able to do this easily. Virtual reality actually is something that is almost there, allow us to replace this so we can actually just look at the world and see artificial intelligence in front of us. By 2045, which is about 20 years from now, we will multiply our intelligence 1 million-fold. And that's good. I mean,
Don't ask a mouse. Yeah.
But people are afraid of it. And it certainly can be used for negative things. We've seen people do that.
So the singularity we can think of as kind of a human-machine merger.
Exactly.
Okay, in 20 years. I want to pivot to another area of prediction that I think will feel very close to everyone here, which is regarding health. One of the ways that you've made these predictions concrete is to talk about how they will impact longevity.
Oh, yeah.
So what can we expect?
I mean, this is happening already. We're increasing our ability to overcome diseases, and we haven't done that completely, but for example, I had two medical problems. My father died of heart disease, actually 50 years ago, and my LDL was high, which is the bad cholesterol. The good cholesterol was low. Taking various medications, including Repatha. My LDL, if you're familiar with that, which is the bad cholesterol, is like 10. My HDL is 64. Those are very good numbers. They've measured my heart. There's absolutely no plaque at all. So I've really overcome that problem with advances in medicine. I had diabetes. Actually have a artificial pancreas. I'll show you part of it.
Ray, no, please, stay clothed. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No, that's okay. That's a practical demonstration of technology.
So this measures my glucose in my blood, and it's basically like an external pancreas, and it works just like a real pancreas. So we're making advances. So right now, you go through a year, you use up a year of your longevity, and you're a year younger. However, scientific progress is also making progress, and if you're diligent, which I think everybody here is diligent, you get back about 4 months from scientific progress. So you actually only age about 8 months.
Today, even today, if you take advantage of medicine.
If you take advantage of what's known. By 2032, which is about 7 years, you'll get back a year. So you go forward a year, you lose a year, but you get back a year if you're diligent, which you'll be.
I will be.
Past 7 years, you'll actually get back more than a year, so you'll go backwards in time. But in 7 years, you'll be able to reach longevity escape velocity, meaning you won't age. Now, that doesn't guarantee you immortality. I mean, you could die from an accident, although we're making progress in that as well. Self-driving cars, actually, so far, there are cars, for example, in San Francisco, you can take the Waymo that are
much less accident prone.
No drivers, and there's been no accidents. So we're making progress on that as well.
So if you don't mind me sharing, but Ray just had his 77th birthday last week, and I wished you happy birthday, and you said it's going so quickly. You said it's such
so far
it's going so quickly. I remember being
aging
in college.
Is very quick.
And you said
the only way to deal with that is to give you more time.
To create more time. I can, just like the 6-year-old Ray wanted to go to other planets and live forever, to give you more time. I think that's a really powerful term. Longevity, escape velocity.
Yeah.
When you not just stop aging, but also reverse it. I know we just have a minute. So we've talked a lot about how accurate a predictor you are, the predictions you have that intelligence will grow and grow, millions or billions fold. It sounds supernatural, almost godlike. How would you leave us as we think about how to reconcile the growth of AI and our own faith and spirituality?
Well, I've thought a bit about religion, which is part of the issues here. What is the point of life? And the point of life, I think, is God. It's love. And God is love. So if we achieve love, we've reached union with our Creator. So.
And do you think AI can help us in that pursuit?
Yes, it's making us more intelligent, so we can deal with more complexity. If we had no complexity, we wouldn't be able to achieve love.
More AI, more understanding, more love.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ray and Yasmin. We are talking a lot about safety during the summit. Everyone deserves to feel safe, whether you're online, at school, at work, at a concert, or even in your own home. We are looking to build a community where safety isn't just something we have to hope for, where it's something we can feel, no matter where we are or who we are. Right now, we're going to hear from an incredible public official, a Jewish woman from right here in New York City who works to keep more than 8 million people safe and secure. Please welcome the Commissioner of the New York City Police Department, Jessica Tisch. Woo!
Good afternoon. Thank you, Montana, for that wonderful introduction. And of course, I want to thank the Anti-Defamation League, especially your director and CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, as well as your entire board, your staff, and the thousands of dedicated volunteers for your work to inspire action in the fight against hate, intolerance, and injustice. On the morning of October 7th, I was traveling with my son when I got a call from my grandmother, a Rebbitzin of blessed memory. She didn't say good morning. She didn't even say hello. She simply said, "We are at war." She didn't say who was at war, but I knew. As the news of the attack filtered around the world, it was immediately clear that this was now a seminal moment in history. In the days that followed, I traveled with the mayor to synagogues around the city as he delivered his powerful message: we are not all right. And sadly, those words would prove prophetic in ways that we did not yet imagine. Right here in New York, the city with the largest Jewish population outside of Israel anywhere in the world, anti-Jewish hate was on full display. As a Jewish mother and daughter, born and raised in this city, it was chilling to see the symbols of anti-Semitism plastered to walls, displayed at rallies, and painted on subway cars. It was so open, so shameless, so empowered, and it shook the foundations of what we thought being Jewish in New York City meant. There was fear, there was anger, there was helplessness, and let's be honest, there still is. But there is also clarity about what needs to be done and how the New York City Police Department will do it. On the morning of October 7th, anti-Semitic crimes in New York City were actually down 20% for the year. But from that day to the end of 2023, they jumped up 80%. And in 2024, they rose another 7% and represented 54% of all hate crimes reported in this city. In the past 17 months, we've dealt with thousands of anti-Israel protests across the 5 boroughs. Many of the college campus protests were especially despicable, with open, blatant displays of intolerance. Jewish students were harassed and intimidated and threatened. Buildings were ransacked, and campus life was completely upended. And in many cases, the protesters' target was not and is not Israeli policy or geopolitics or even the horrors of war, but the Jewish people themselves. I want to be very clear. I speak on behalf of the women and men of the NYPD when I say much of this rhetoric is vile. At the same time, as an organization whose members have sworn an oath to support, to protect, and to defend the Constitution, the NYPD will follow the law and we will uphold the First Amendment, even when the protected language is deeply offensive to our own sensibilities. But make no mistake, anyone who commits a crime will be arrested. They will be held accountable, and our city will not go backwards, not on my watch. Since October 7th, officers from the NYPD's Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau have made thousands of visits to sensitive locations citywide, like synagogues and Jewish schools. They have conducted thousands of canine, bomb, and radiation sweeps. They've also disrupted significant threats. Take, for instance, a Canadian ISIS supporter who was arrested by the Joint Terrorism Task Force for plotting to attack a Brooklyn synagogue on the first anniversary of October 7th. And just 2 weeks ago, I gave the order to shut down the Lincoln Tunnel during rush hour to apprehend a Utah man who had threatened a synagogue in Manhattan. Officers were able to identify, track, and arrest him within hours of his initial threats. Obviously, this is very personal to me, as a Jew, as a New Yorker, and as your police commissioner. As a Jew, I was so humbled at the outpouring of thanks and appreciation that I received from around the world after I was sworn in wearing my Magen David. It honestly surprised me because my Jewish identity is not something that I put on and take off. It's not an affect, nor is it a political statement. It is who I am and who I will always be. And as your police commissioner, I promise that the NYPD will continue to combat anti-Semitism no matter where the threats originate, and our hate crimes task force will remain on the front lines of this fight. And we at the NYPD have the backing of everyday New Yorkers who know that the most diverse city on the planet must be and will be a place where everyone can live and work and worship free from fear. This is not just our hope for the future, it is our fundamental responsibility right now. So thank you again to the ADL for the opportunity to address this important summit, and to everyone who stands against prejudice and hate. And thank you all for your continued support of the women and the men of the New York City Police Department. Thank you.
Please welcome the chair of the ADL Board of Directors, Nicole Muchnick.
Hey everyone, wow, you look good. Good afternoon everyone. Thank you so much for everyone who's here today. I'm Nicole Muchnick, chair of the ADL Board of Directors. And it's my honor to be with you guys today. So many advocates, so many community leaders here in one space from all over the country and all over the world. Well, none of you need me to tell you that we're here at a critical time. We've already heard about the crises that we face on campus, in our streets, online, and around the world. It's a moment of real danger, and we recognize that, when our very identity is often being used against us. Communities are often under attack. The fundamental fabric of some of our most trusted and often beloved institutions is fraying. Our sense of safety and security is torn. At ADL, we are meeting this moment. We're meeting this moment with action. Today, ADL is at the forefront of the fight against this unprecedented wave of anti-Semitism. We are filing groundbreaking lawsuits that take on dangerous people and unjust institutions and complicit nations who are funding terror and are inciting violence. We're using cutting-edge technologies to meet evolving challenges with new tools. And we're advising heads of state, heads of government, business leaders, and standing with Jewish communities and amplifying your voices. We continue to rely on the pillars of equal rights and equal protection under the law. We're fighting for equal enforcement, just the enforcement of the rules, without any special exemptions for trendy ideologies that call for violence and call for harassment and are calling for our discrimination. We're defending these rights, the equal rights of Jews to participate fully and freely in American society. And we're rejecting the ideology that can come from the left or can come from the right that justifies violence and discrimination. We're using every opportunity and every means to advance our mission to protect the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. Thank you. Thank you. We aren't just leading the way in combating hate. As I think you've seen yesterday and today, we are reinventing the way that it is done. Of course, we don't do any of this work alone. At ADL, our efforts are fueled by extraordinary supporters like all of you who've shown up here today in person, and communities across the country and around the world who give their time, their energy, and their resources to make sure that we can meet this moment. For those of you here today who are already a critical part of the work that ADL does, I want to say thank you. Thank you. Your contributions are essential to the victories that we have already won, to the actions that are still in progress, and to the future that we're all building together. And for those of you who are not yet part of our incredible donor network or would like to get more involved, I encourage you to join The Bridge, which is our monthly giving community. And you can have ongoing impact through The Bridge, texting ADL Bridge to 51555. I think it's coming up on the screen somewhere. Or go to adl.org. In the days and the weeks ahead, as we continue to fight anti-Semitism, your support can be a bridge to a better path. I want to close my remarks today by reflecting briefly on the story of Purim, which begins next week. As Queen Esther, if you may be familiar with the Purim story, as Queen Esther has to make a decision about whether or not she should or she can speak up to reveal her identity, her hidden identity, and hope that she might have some small influence to save the Jews of Persia, whose slaughter was already decreed by the king and scheduled. It was a huge risk for her to speak out, a risk to her life, a risk to her hidden identity, to her status, and to her children. Esther did not sign up for that role. She was not a diplomat. She was not a negotiator. She did not seek to be queen to save the Jewish people. She was not an obvious choice. She was in different rooms than most of the Jewish community. She did not seek that moment, but the moment found her. History found her. I want to thank you for being here now. Whatever your background or your profession, today, now, we are all Esther. We may have spent our lives helping others, expanding the rights and the voices of others, promoting education and fellowship, not ever expecting to need to speak up for Jews or to help our own families. And today, we are called upon to speak, sometimes, and perhaps most importantly, in unexpected places. We are all part of a very, very long story, and we are in the midst right now of writing our chapter. This moment has found us, all of us. Yes, we are here for the Jews. And yes, we are here for others. And yes, we are here for humanity. And difficult as these times can be, I know that there is nothing that we would rather be doing. Personally, I am so energized by the work ADL has done. And as we launch our new campaign, I'm hopeful about the opportunity that we have to fight back against hate, to turn the tide against bigotry, and to usher in a new era for our community and for our world. Take a look.
Thanks, ADL, for everything you do for supporting all of us who speak out against bigotry. Using your voice in a time of crisis isn't easy. I can tell you from experience. Especially when speaking out comes with a risk. But that's exactly why it is so important. Next up on stage are people who have refused to be silenced in the face of hate. They have used their influence to call out anti-Semitism, stand up for truth, and to inspire others to do the same. Being a hero isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite the fear. And that's exactly what these individuals have done.
Hen and I know how important it is to use the platform that we have to stand up for what matters most. And that is why we are so proud to have with us here today a group of people who have used their voices and their influence to call out hate, to share truth, and to change minds.
Here to tell us more is my Hebrew teacher, my English teacher, I mean. When I was a kid, he taught me English back in Israel. Like most Israelis, I learned my English through watching Friends. Please welcome to the stage, David Schwimmer.
Woo!
Well, good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to Jonathan Greenblatt for your tireless leadership. Thanks to the ADL for your unflinching advocacy. And thank you to every person here in this hall and watching at home for your commitment to this community. My career has given me an incredible platform, a chance to talk about the issues that matter to me, and on a good day, a chance to be heard over the noise that drowns too many people out. And I believe with that privilege comes a responsibility to use my voice in moments like this, at a time of danger, bigotry, and violence. Now, as you know, speaking out often comes at a cost. Like so many others, I've been attacked and threatened by people I've never met. I've been abandoned by people I thought were friends and by organizations I thought were allies. But I've also found amazing moments of meaning and solidarity. And I want to remind you that there are so many good people out there who have our backs, incredible allies, that we will get through this together, that our spirit is unbreakable, our joy is irrepressible, our story is impossible. We are kind, resilient, innovative, generous, and strong. And, as you can tell from this speech, really funny. Now, I get that speaking out is hard. Plenty of people I respect, even some of my heroes in entertainment, music, and sports, have chosen to keep a low profile and sit this one out, including some whose careers have been made by leaning into their Jewish identity, and others who have won acclaim for playing Jews on screen. Some of them are doing a lot behind the scenes, privately, and in their own way. But so many have chosen not to say anything publicly at all. And if I can say something directly to them, I really wish you would. I wish you would stand up. I wish you would speak out, because your voice would be so meaningful to your fans who love you, to your community members who need you, to folks who could use just a little solidarity right now from people they respect and look up to. You don't have to say anything political. No one's asking you to solve the conflict in the Middle East. Just say that you stand with your Jewish friends, colleagues, and neighbors against hatred and discrimination. Say that what's happening on our college campuses and in our schools and to Jewish-owned businesses is totally unacceptable. Say anything in solidarity with the Jewish community. Post your bar mitzvah picture. We'll start a trend of embarrassing haircuts and dental work. This time we're in, with the terrifying global rise in anti-Semitism and the normalization of hate speech and physical attacks against Jews, calls for those of us in positions of real or perceived leadership, whether we ask for it or not, to risk a little personal comfort for the sake of the greater community. Elie Wiesel said, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference." What is indifference? It's inaction. It's silence. Sometimes, in moments of danger, it can feel like our only option is to stay quiet, to avoid drawing attention to ourselves, to hide. But here's the truth. Now is not the time to disappear. Now is the time to show up, to reach out, to connect with one another, to find strength in our community, and to raise up our voices together. When we do that, we change minds, we challenge assumptions, and we remind other Jewish people across the country and around the globe that we are not alone. Today, I'm so honored to welcome and recognize a group of people who are using their voices, their reach, and their connections to share messages of hope and solidarity that stretch around the world. They're not just speaking up, they're shouting from the rooftops. We're calling these individuals heroes against hate. From influencers to actors to students to chefs to authors to comics, activists, nurses, entrepreneurs, TV hosts, podcasters, rabbis, business owners, producers. They're using their profiles to raise awareness of anti-Semitism. They're replacing blame and shame with light and truth. And through the power of their platforms, they're empowering others to stand up for justice. And I'm proud to stand with them today. So please welcome and recognize our 2025 Heroes Against Hate.
Thank you. Wow.
And now everyone, please give it up for Zach Sage Fox.
Wow, thank you, David. Powerful speech, man. Thank you, heroes. Before we do anything, let's get together for a picture. Let's do this. From every angle. Wow, what an honor to be here, everyone. Let's give it up for David one more time. That was a powerful speech. You had me tearing up there, friend. All right, now between everybody here, we have over 90 million followers. 90 million. Wow. The power of social media, those aren't just numbers, okay? Those are people, and what I want is to reach every one of them right now. You ready for this? So with your help, I'd like us to send a message against anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hate to our more than 90 million people around the world following us. I'm asking you, heroes, to take out your phones and get ready to post a message about fighting hate. And all of you in the audience, here in the room and at home, I want you to join us. So take out your phone, go to your social media, and pull up the ADL profiles we're showing up on the big screen, okay? As soon as we post from this account, I want you to share that image from yours. Altogether, we will post a powerful statement about hate to the world, showing our strength in numbers through the reach that we establish in this very moment. All right, let's do it, guys. Hold up your phones and get ready to post. Are we ready? Yeah, are we ready, guys? Yeah. All right, 3, 2, 1, post. Wow. We did it, guys. We solved anti-Semitism.
All right, everyone, listen. The fight doesn't end today. So let this be the start of a movement to stand up as one, united against hate. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing your part.
All right, everybody, let's get back.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Dude, that was awesome. All right, brother.
I think now it's just me. Wow, what an incredible moment. And honestly, I think we need another round of applause to all of them. And another round of applause to David Schwimmer, because it's really such an incredible thing that he's doing. And to be so proud and so outspoken, it's really incredible. Thank you, David. This kind of work matters. In the last 17 months, the Jewish community has faced an intensive campaign of dehumanization. And we know from our history that dehumanization leads to scapegoating. And if you don't know someone, or if you don't see them as human beings, it becomes much easier to use violence against them. And that's something that Jewish history has taught us time and again. Once we're being ostracized, once we're being othered, it's much easier to take steps and violence against us. And that's why it's important to share voices and experiences of Jewish people, to show who we are, where we come from, and what we care about. And it's why I'm using this new project to, it's my baby. I've been working on this project for so long. I'm so excited to share it with you. I know I have a text, but I'm going to just tell you, because it's something that I invested so much, and just, posting on social media every day and posting the news and the horrific news that we've all seen, some inspirational, but most of it is really painful, is so taxing on me, and I'm doing it and I'm fighting every day, but I keep thinking and praying for the day that the hostages would be back home, that this war would be over, and that we will all be able to go back to what is normal, but go back to times that we can celebrate our identity. And that's exactly what this project is. So I'm so proud and honored to share it today with all of you, with the ADL. It's coming your way in a new web series that I've been working on, and it's called And They're Jewish. You are getting a first exclusive look. And They're Jewish is a groundbreaking web series. We're going to take you around the world, from New York to Paris to London to LA. Join me on this journey to discover some incredible individuals.
I'm involved, especially with the Pacers Foundation.
What's your title in that?
Owner.
And some unexpected stories that not just put focus on their Jewish identity, but about who they really are.
Is that your dream, to play in Wicked?
I feel like it's such an honor and privilege to be able to be part of something so huge that has such global reach.
I may not feel like I'm doing my best, but I'll give everybody else the benefit of the doubt.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and proud to share it. So I never said this word for the first time, but subscribe to my YouTube channel to watch the full series. It's coming out on April 2nd. And more importantly, make sure you share it with your non-Jewish friends so they can see some of the incredible things that Jewish people are doing around the world. After all, the fight against anti-Semitism is not just a Jewish fight, it's a universal one. And it requires leadership that goes beyond borders to drive real change and ensure that no Jewish community anywhere in the world is left to fight alone. Thank you so much. Really, thank you, means a lot. Tonight, the ADL is proud to honor one amazing person who is deeply engaged in that work with the International Leadership Award. This award is given to an individual, organization, whose vision, imagination, and creativity have left an incredible mark upon the global community. And I'm so excited. I can't tell you, I mean, I've been like her biggest fan for so long. I still have this Wonder Woman doll in my house. I freaking love her, she's amazing, and she's, here to present that award and that honor, it is my pleasure to welcome back ADL CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt.
It is a profound privilege to stand before you after the extraordinary 2 days that we've had, to celebrate a woman whose strength, courage, and unwavering commitment to justice in fighting anti-Semitism define the very essence of heroism. That woman is Gal Gadot. Heroes are not defined by the roles they play on screen, but by the choices they make when the world is watching, and more importantly, when it's not. Gal's journey from a small town in Israel to her service in the IDF to becoming one of Hollywood's most beloved stars is a story of perseverance and purpose. Wonder Woman is just one of the many roles Gal is known for, and anyone who's seen Wonder Woman knows that this heroine is loyal, selfless, and compassionate. Off-screen, I can tell you, Gal is all of those things and more. I can say from firsthand experience with so many celebrities that what sets Gal apart from so many of her peers is the way that she uses her global platform to educate, advocate, and lead with moral clarity and unabashed resolve. Her influence, without a doubt, extends far beyond her work as a distinguished actor. Indeed, she has been an unshakable voice against anti-Semitism and hatred in all its forms. In the wake of the 10/7 terror attacks, when the world was flooded with rampant disinformation and willful, intentional ignorance, Gal stood firm. In a moment when fear can paralyze, she chose to act. In an instant when so many took to the sidelines, she fearlessly and unapologetically stepped right onto the field. Her courage manifested in so many ways. When others wouldn't listen, Gal amplified the voices of survivors. When others stood back, she called for the release of innocent hostages. When so many equivocated, Gal refused to let the atrocities committed against Israelis, against Jews, against innocents. She refused to let those harms be erased or ignored. And she didn't stop there. She challenged international leaders and NGOs, including the United Nations and major women's rights organizations, to acknowledge the brutal reality of what happened to Jewish and Israeli women. She demanded justice when too many were willing to look the other way. We're living in a time when anti-Semitism is surging to almost unspeakable levels, reaching heights that we haven't seen in generations. And yet, through it all, Gal has refused to be silenced. And look, she has faced hate from Hollywood. She has been slandered on social media. She's been attacked from the darkest corners of the internet. And yet, every single day, she meets it with dignity, humanity, and an unshakable commitment to the truth. That's what real leadership looks like. That's what a hero does. And so today we honor Gal Gadot not just for her achievements, but for her courage, for standing up when it was so much easier to sit back, for speaking out when it was safer to stay quiet, for using her voice not for applause, but for impact. Gal, your leadership has left an indelible mark on the global fight against anti-Semitism. Your bravery has inspired millions of others, men and women, boys and girls. Your strength has energized them and all of us in our community in more ways than I can recount here this afternoon. And your grace through it all has been extraordinary to behold. It is my privilege to present you, Gal Gadot, with the 2025 International Leadership Award. Please join me in welcoming on stage here at Never Is Now, the one and only Gal Gadot. Thank you. You're the best.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for this incredible recognition, and an enormous thank you to the ADL. Jonathan, thank you so much for your kind words. As we all know, hatred, intolerance, and bigotry are on the rise. Most of us will never have experienced a worse time for anti-Semitism in our lifetimes. But we should feel safer knowing that the ADL has our backs. So thank you, ADL, for the work that you do for all of us. My name is Gal. I'm a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, an actress. I'm Israeli, and I'm Jewish. I'm going to say it again. My name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. Isn't it crazy that just saying that, just expressing such a simple fact about who I am, feels like a controversial statement? But sadly, this is where we're at today. I grew up in Rosh Hashanah, in the center of Israel. My mother was the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. Her father, my grandfather, Avraham Weiss, may he rest in peace, was born in what was then Czechoslovakia. He was the only one in his family who survived. His father died fighting for the Czech army when the Nazis invaded, and his mother and brother were murdered in the gas chambers of Auschwitz. He came to Israel with nothing and built a life for himself. And despite the horrors he endured, he always taught me the values of love, compassion, and tolerance. את לא משיגה שום דבר בכעס ובשנאה. You don't win anything with anger and hate, he used to tell me. Thank you. On my father's side, I'm the 8th generation to be born in the land of Israel. One of my ancestors was the very first chemist in the Shearei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem. I'm very proud of both sides of my family, and they show the two sides of Israel. On the one hand, a country that provided a life raft for refugees fleeing the horrors of persecution, pogroms, and the Holocaust. And on the other hand, the historic homeland of the Jewish people, where our roots run deep and where we are an indigenous people. I am proud to be an Israeli, and I am proud to be Jewish. But this is a time when many of us in the Jewish community have had to find our voice and confront the hatred against us, even if it's extremely uncomfortable. That's been the case for all of us in every walk of life and every profession, including my own. I never really wanted to talk about politics. I kind of tried really, really hard to avoid it because no one wants to hear celebrities talking about political issues, right? But also, I regarded myself as a citizen of the world, an equal among equals. I'm Israeli, of course, and I knew that anti-Semitism and anti-Israel hate existed. And like all of us, sometimes I'd caught a whiff of it. But I never thought of myself as being where I came from. It was an aspect of who I am, but it didn't define me. And then October 7th happened, and everything since. Never did I imagine that we would witness such a day of such death and destruction of Jews in our lifetime. And never did I imagine that on the streets of the United States and different cities around the world, we would see people not condemning Hamas, but celebrating, justifying, and cheering on a massacre of Jews. I know I'm not the only one in this room when I say that this was a wake-up call. And here's the thing. However much you tried to avoid it before, even if speaking up wasn't really your thing, none of us can ignore the explosion of Jew hatred around the world anymore. And that's what I'm doing. No way I need it. It really is me standing in front of you today, saying simply that my name is Gal and I'm Jewish, and we have had enough of Jew hatred. We will confront anti-Semitism, we will call it out, but we will never let it not only defeat us, but define us, because our love is stronger than their hate. In the days after October 7th, we were all distraught. Like many of you, I was glued to the horrors coming out of Israel and the hatred spilling over here. I'm not a religiously observant person, but I found myself in the temple, in the synagogue. And it was then when finally I was just a little bit comforted. I felt the embrace of the Jewish people and the power in the warmth of our community. And I will never forget that feeling, because even though I was a long way from home in Israel and I was in a temple in Los Angeles, I felt at home among family. And for those few precious moments, the chaos and violence of the outside world felt just a little bit easier to deal with. October 7th showed us that what happens to Jews anywhere affects Jews everywhere. And this goes both ways. Not only what happens there affects us here, but what happens here affects them there. So here we are in this room together, calling for the release of every single one of our hostages. We have to bring them home. With every hostage release, we hear new testimonies of the horrors they've been through. Every minute for them is hell. Their lives are in danger, and we need them home. We want the hostages and their families to know that we have your back, that we are here for you. And we need them to know that wherever they go in the world, where there's a Jewish community, they will always find people who campaigned for them, who love them, and who will never let them walk alone. Because this is who we are, and this is who we will always be, taking responsibility for each other. Along with my husband Yaron, we're bringing up 4 daughters to also be proud of who they are, to take responsibility, to love themselves. We're raising strong, independent Jewish women, strong women who stand with other women. Now, I know many women in this room and in our community that have stood strong for the rights of women and girls. On October 7th, Jewish women were sexually terrorized, raped, murdered, and kidnapped by Hamas. We were all listening for, hoping to hear support from our sisters around the world, and too often heard silence. We can't wait any longer. We can't hold our breaths and pray or beg for support from people, groups, community that don't want to be there for us. We need to be there for ourselves. And this is why every single Jew must lean in now, in whatever way we can. Speak up, learn more about our history. We can always do that. Join a temple, find your community, get connected, and as we support our own community, never stop reaching out to the world. Rabbi Hillel famously said, Im en ani li mili. If I'm not for, sorry, I'm too excited, I'm not used to this. Rabbi Hillel famously said, Im en ani li mili. If I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I'm only for myself, then what am I? So even if we don't hear others speaking up for us, we have to keep speaking up for ourselves and reaching out our hands to everyone to join in. That is what I tell my daughters. First, learn to love yourselves, who you are and where you're from, and then the rest will follow. It's time to pass on to our children a love of who they are. So, who are we? We, the Jewish people, are an ancient people with an ancient story in an ancient homeland. We are the people that celebrate life. We work to see better and more peaceful future. We challenge hate when we face it, but we do it with love while always striving to make the world a better place. And who am I? My name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. I'm Israel Chai. Thank you.
And what an incredible summit. Thank you all so much for being part of this amazing event. And thank you to the ADL, not only for hosting us over the last few days, but for your leadership every day to end anti-Semitism and fight back against bigotry around the world. in courtrooms, in boardrooms, in the halls of power, in the streets of this country and around the world. ADL is at the forefront of this effort. Thank you for everything you do.
As we close out this incredible gathering, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've built over the past 2 days. We have shared powerful stories, had tough but meaningful conversations, and most importantly, strengthen our collective resolve to fight anti-Semitism and hate in all of its forms. We've heard from some truly inspiring people, from activists to public officials, and from community leaders to global icons. We've shared experiences, explored the impacts of our actions, and imagined the future that we can all build together. And we've seen how individuals and communities can change hearts and minds and transform the world. That is what the future of hope is about. It's about all of you in here, all of us, doing our part step by step together.
My hope, I think our hope, is that you leave this conference not just informed, but fired up to take action in your communities, to speak up when it's uncomfortable, and to stand together in true solidarity. Because the fight against hate isn't won in a conference hall, it's won in the everyday moments when we choose courage over silence. This event has given me hope, really energized me. I feel so uplifted to see all of you, to be here with all of you, and gave me hope. Hope because I see a room full of people who refuse to be bystanders. Hope because I know that the work we do here doesn't end here. It carries on in every conversation, every challenge, and every stand we take beyond these walls. So as you head back to your cities, campuses, and workplace, ask yourself, what can I do? How can I do the change? How can I be the change? And then go out and do it. Because together we are stronger. We have a choice to stand up or to stand by. I know where I stand. Do you know where you stand?
Woo! All of you in here today, and all of you watching from home, we can't forget the people watching from home. Let's give, all of us in here, let's give a round of applause for the people watching from home. You have the power to make a difference. You have the ability to speak your mind, to take action, and to use your influence for good. And when you do, we will be right there with you, right by your side, and together we will build a future where all of us and Jews around the world can live strong, safe, and free.
Thank you for showing up, for being part of this movement, and for refusing to be silent. Now, let's get to work.
Yes. Thank you all so much, and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.